Hello and welcome back to the channel. On today's tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you how to draft and sew this beautiful bustier gown with a stylish cape sleeve. So if this is something you will like, please hit on the subscribe button. Let's dive right into today's video. So on this pattern, I've gone ahead to mark out all my basic measurements, which includes my shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, and shoulder to waistline. So now I'm going to mark my shoulder divided by 2. We are not attaching ½ inch to it because there's no sleeve. Now we are going to come down by 1 inch, and from that 1 inch I'm going to go ahead to connect all the way to this pattern. Now I'll find my chest line, which is my bust circumference divided by 6, which gives me 7. So I'll mark what I have at the shoulder back. Now I'm going to go ahead to connect it down to my shoulder line. Now I'm going to mark what I have from my bust down to my chest line, and I'm going to place my ruler at that point, and I'm going to go ahead to rule out a line which will serve as my chest line. After I'm done marking this, I'm going to divide my chest line into 2 by folding my tape this way, and I'll go in by ½ inch at the midpoint of my armhole. At this point, I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. And after I'm done marking that, I'm going to go ahead to connect it all the way to the center and down to the upper part of my shoulder. Now I'm going to go ahead to outline my pattern to make it more visible for you to see. And after I'm done marking this out, the next step is to go ahead to mark my dart intake. To mark my dart intake, I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. So you're going to go ahead and mark your nipple to nipple. My nipple to nipple is 3.5, which is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5. Now I'll go ahead and mark this. Now from the chest line, I'll go up by 1.5 inches. That is where I want my bustier to stop. And from that point, I'll also mark my 3.5, and I'll rule a little line on that point. And I'll go ahead and connect back my pattern. That is the 3.5 inches mark that I made. I'll go ahead and rule a line connecting it. After I'm done connecting it, you want to go ahead and mark your dart intake. Now I'll be marking 1 inch at both sides of my under bust and both sides of my waistline. If you're a plus size, you're going to go ahead and make use of 1.5 inches. And now I'm going to go ahead to connect all the way down. After I'm done doing this, you want to draw out the bustier area of your pattern, and to do that, you're just going to go ahead to connect from your bust down to your under bust, as easy as that. So I'll be placing my French curve to do that. You can also use a freehand sketch, but it's more advisable to use your French curve to draw this out. After I'm done connecting, this is what I have, and I'm just going to go ahead to use my marker to connect it all the way down. After I'm done connecting this, we are going to go ahead to work on the upper part of this pattern. Now I'm going to be taking my dart intake, which I'll be marking 1 inch at both sides. You can go ahead and use 1.5 inches if you're on the plus size or more. And I'll go ahead to connect from that 1 inch mark down to my bust point this way. So this is what I have on this point, and I'm going to go ahead to outline it with my marker this way. After I'm done doing this, you want to go ahead to outline your neckline. That is where your bustier will start. So what we have is more like a straight line, and at this point I'll just bend it a little and also outline this point. So the next step you want to take is to go ahead and mark your body circumference. So at the bust, I'll be marking my bust circumference divided by 4. Measure this dart intake. You'll be replacing it. Whatever dart intake you marked out, you'll be replacing it, and add your sewing allowance. Now I'll extend my chest line, and what I have at the bust, I'll take it down to my chest line. So at this point, I'll go ahead and readjust this armhole because it's a tube bustier. I don't want my armhole area to be too low. So I went ahead to use my correction pen to just take it out, clean it out a little. And now I'll just go ahead to use my French curve. I'm going to reconnect. So why I'm doing this is so that my armhole area won't be so low, because this is more like a tube bustier that has a cape sleeve. So after I'm done reconnecting, at that point I'm just going to mark out. So now I'll continue marking my body circumference. Going down to the under bust, I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure this dart intake, replace it, and I'll be marking my sewing allowance. At the waist, I'll be marking my waist circumference divided by 4, replace the dart intake, and also mark my sewing allowance. So after I'm done doing that, I'm just going to go ahead to use my ruler to connect from my under bust to my waist and down to my bust. So this is what I have at this point, and I'm going to go ahead to use my marker to mark this out. After I'm done doing this, we're done drafting out the upper part of this pattern, and I'm just going to go ahead to cut it out. So if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button if you haven't yet subscribed. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for always supporting my channel, and please do leave your comments at the comment section, or if you have any question regarding this particular tutorial, you can go ahead to leave it also at the comment section. So now after I'm done drafting this out, we are going to go ahead to draft out the back pattern of this dress. So I've marked my back pattern. The only difference between the back and the front is the zipper allowance. So next, I'm going to go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2, which is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches, and I'm going to go ahead to mark. Now I'm going to place my ruler and I'm going to connect. So after I'm done connecting this, I'm going to go ahead to mark ½ inch at both sides of this pattern, and I'm going to connect it upwards this way. So I am drawing out my dart intake for this pattern. You can go ahead and sew your dart at the back or blend it in. Now I'll mark my body circumference, which is my bust circumference divided by 4, and I'll add my sewing allowance. Now at the under bust, I'm going to mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure this dart intake here, replace it, and add my sewing allowance. Now at the waistline, I'm going to mark the waist circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, and I'll go ahead to mark my sewing allowance. After I'm done marking that, I'm just going to go ahead to connect my pattern this way, and I'll connect at the chest line. So from the chest line, I'm going to come down by ½ inch. So this is to make sure at the center of the dress does not pop up or go up or higher. You can experience this if you're putting on a bustier or a tube dress. So from that point, I'm just going to place my French curve, and I'm going to connect it down to my chest line this way. Next, I'm going to get rid of the bulginess at the back of the dress, but before we do that, we extend our line down to the zipper part. So to take out the bulginess at the back of your dress, go ahead and mark ½ inch and extend it all the way up, and I'll mark my zipper allowance. Now we are done drafting the back pattern of this dress. All I'm going to do is to go ahead to cut out this pattern. So after we are done cutting out this pattern, I'll also go ahead to cut out the lower part of this pattern, which is the skirt pattern. So after I'm done cutting, this is what I have. So taking the front pattern and placing it at the back pattern, that is the chest line area, you notice that it is meeting at this point. So your chest line at the back and the front should be meeting because it is a tube bustier. So now let's draft out our skirt pattern. From the top of my pattern, I'm going to mark 7 inches. That will be my hip point. For a much taller person, you can go ahead and make use of 8 inches. Now, at the upper part of my pattern, I'll be labeling it as waist, and at the lower part, which is my hip point. Now, the next step is to place my tape starting from my waistline. My shoulder to waistline is 17 inches, and I'm going to go ahead to mark my dress length, which is 34 inches, because this dress is actually very short. Now I won't be adding my folding allowance on this. I'll be adding it directly on my fabric. Now I will rule a line at that point, and that is my dress length. So the next step I'm going to take is to go ahead to insert my waist circumference. My waist circumference is 28 divided by 4. I have 7 inches, and I'll add my sewing allowance. So if you make use of a dart at this point, go ahead to do that. Now I'll mark my hip circumference and add my sewing allowance. So whatever I have on this pattern, I'm going to minus 1.5 or 2 inches from it. So my hip circumference is 40 divided by 4. I have 10 plus 1.5. Now I'll be minusing 2 inches from what I have, and I'll be left with 9.5, which I marked at the lower part. So I'll connect from my hip to my waist, and I'll be connecting down to my skirt point. So if you're wondering why I did not add that on my skirt part, that's the lower part. Whenever I'm making a bustier or a corset, I don't use a dart on the lower part of my dress. So now I'm just going to go ahead to use my marker to mark this out. So for this pattern, you'll be using it also to cut the back part of your dress. All you're going to do is to go ahead and add your zipper allowance in front. So I'll go ahead and I will cut out my skirt pattern this way, and this is what I have. So you'll be adding your zipper allowance in front to cut the back. So going to the cape of this dress, so you have to measure what you have round your shoulder or around your body this way. So after measuring mine, what I have is about 43 inches, but because of what we have on the thumbnail, I'll be adding few inches to it, so I'll be making use of 48. Because by the time you add a boning to it to give it structure, like to stand, you're going to need like few inches away from your armhole or your body, just like we have on the thumbnail. You notice that the cape is not tight on the body, so all you have to do is like add extra inches after measuring what you have round your body. So I have 43 inches, and I'll go ahead to add 5, and I'll be working with 48. So you can add more than that. So now we'll be going over to cut it out. So I'll be cutting it on fold. 48 divided by 2, I'll be having 24 inches. Now you'll be adding half inches for stitching up allowance. So this your cape, you can go ahead and attach it directly to the zip, or you can just attach it directly to the body of your dress. And now for the width, I'm using 6 inches because what we have there is not too big, like the width is not too much, so you don't want to use something more than 6 inches. But if you're okay with that, go ahead and use that. So after marking this out, I'll be using it to cut out my cape, and for the other bow tie in front of the dress, we'll be cutting it out when we're actually making the dress. So if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and see you in our next video. Thanks. So this is what I have for my cape.